Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a Calvinist, whether they realize it or not. My guy, NZ Club, said some are destined to die by war, some disease, some accident, some old age, and some are destined to reject the truth and be condemned like animals created for slaughter. Whether you realize it or not, this is two things. One, this is the Calvinistic view, which created one of the largest separation of Christianity in the Protestant within Protestantism. The other thing, this question has been a paradox of Christianity and many other religions, but mainly in Christianity in the modern era. This has been a paradox that none can truly answer because you want to have your cake and eat it too. What do I mean by that? Predestination is the idea that your life has already been decided and there's absolutely nothing you can do to change it. That there were those who were created to die in war, to die of old age, to die in accidents, to die of diseases. And there were those who were created to not accept the truth of this God and will be led to the slaughter and condemned to hell for all eternity. Sounds very evil, in my opinion. Now, the other side of that is you have Christians who don't accept predestination, but yet, in order for their deity to be the supreme deity, it must be omniscient. And this is one of the reasons why the Calvinists say that God predestination is legit. But their God must be omniscient, knowing the beginning and the end. But if your God already knows the beginning of the end, then he already knows that people like myself will not choose this deity as my deity, that I will reject Christianity. He already knows this, if that was the true God. In knowing this, he created a being that will not go and live with him in heaven through the fear that he has demonstrated of going to hell. But they have to have their omniscient God. But if their God is omniscient and he already knows my decisions, is it not an evil God that would then allow me to be created? What would be the rationale for my creation? There is only but two rationales that you can possibly come up with. The one rationale is that I was created as a being who will reject this God, and that I will be a test to others to see if they remain true to this God. But if this God already knows who's going to remain true and who's not, then there serves no purpose for my creation in that vein. So the only one that you can conclusively come to is that I was created because this deity, this God, has a desire, need, or want, and derives some level of satisfaction from my suffering, from my eternal suffering. Since I do not have a choice in what I believe and what I do and how I think, then I was created because this deity desires for me to suffer an eternal damnation in hell. Whether it is the hell that does have suffering or it is the hell of being absent from God and therefore being just sent off into oblivion and not having consciousness at all, that satisfies this deity. Now, if this deity is pushed by desires, wants, needs, and satisfaction, then that would make those desires, wants, needs, and satisfaction the causation for your God to act. And therefore, if there is a causation that forces your God to act, then the causation is more absolute and more powerful than your deity. And if that be the case, then your deity cannot be the creator, cannot be the all, because something outside of itself or even inside of itself is more powerful than it is. So therefore, what are we to think? What are we to think? The only thing that we can think, because as finite beings, we cannot know the fullness of the absolute. Yes, I know. Right there, you're going to say that, well, there you go. Man's ways are not God's ways. Therefore, this God is truthful because he said that man's ways are not God's ways. That still is leaving a problem in the effect that your God is driven by forces outside of itself. So the only true resolution to this answer, to this statement rather, is the fact that this deity created purely because it does. It doesn't create out of fear. It doesn't create out of love. It doesn't create out of a need, want, desire, or satisfaction. But this deity simply created me because I was just created. And those faculties of free will that I have within myself to act in whichever direction that I decide to act in, to think in, to believe in, to love in, to hate in, to anything is all me, all my decisions. The only blasphemy is things that I do against my own self, my own spirit, my own morality, my own good consciousness, my own divinity. That is it. That is the only sin and the only blasphemy. And it's the only one that you can not be forgiven for because you will not forgive yourself. That you will embody yourself, that's the wrong terminology, that you will place yourself in your own hell that you manifest and create yourself because you believe that you deserve it. You will be the sacrificial animal because you believe you deserve it. In the back recesses of your mind, that's what you believe. But unfortunately for you, sir, in your rhetoric, I do not accept that. I do not believe that. I know that I am destined in my own destination because I'm deciding my destination, that I am destined for a different level of greatness, that I am destined for my own rising consciousness to elevate itself to a higher level beyond the conceptions of man, beyond the conception of this matter plane existence. My predestination is the ones that I choose, and I can change them at any point in time that I choosing. It is of my choosing, not a deity. This deity does not come down and take away the free will of man like your book describes how he took away the free will of Pharaoh. This deity does not come down and coerce people in the same way he coerced Jonah and by putting him in the belly of the whale because he decided he did not want to go and preach to these people. This deity does not act in those manners in order to scare people into a false love of this deity. And that false love, as we describe it, is a very psychotic form of Stockholm syndrome, where you begin to love your captor, love the one who has taken you away from yourself, to love the one who has abused you and genocided and caused rapes and murders and wars. Out of fear, you love him. You stay with him. You give your entire life to a deity that has less morality than you yourself because you're afraid. You're afraid of going to hell. But you may already be going to hell because you believe that people are predestined for it. And you think that you have a truth. But if the Muslims are right, you're going to Muslim hell. If the Buddhist is right, you're coming back and living this earthly matter hell. Think about that for a second. But I decide my destination because the all is not driven by love, desire, want, need, satisfaction, or any of those things, because then it wouldn't be the all. So remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.